by a vote of 5 to 4.
Have you ever experienced a moment that was so beautiful, so magical, and so downright glorious that you just needed to take a second and go, wow, that really just happened? Well, that kinda just occurred in the Big Brother 27 house. Against all odds, a series of events played out that looked so unlikely that when it happened, my jaw was left on the floor as I galloped across my living room in excitement and disbelief. And it was so incredible that I wanted to make sure I immortalized this moment. So today, we will be taking a deep dive into the exhilarating final 12 eviction of Big Brother 27. Consider subscribing to the channel or liking this video, otherwise, I'm gonna evict you. And without further ado, here is the best eviction in Big Brother possibly ever.
Oh, this game is making me so crazy, it's not even funny, because I had to send someone home.
I'm just so mad.
Now, we could just jump right into the eviction, but that would be such a disservice to all of you if I didn't inform you of the lead up, because it totally adds to the feeling and wonder of it all. The week began with a Western showdown in the HOH comp. The final round saw Rachel Rylie going up against Morgan in a do or die for the two of them, as the winner would be nominating the loser almost assuredly. In the end, we saw Rachel come out victorious, and this gave her her 7th lifetime HOH win and tied her for the all-time US HOH record, which doesn't actually have anything to do with anything here, but it is a nice cherry to top this whole thing off. Anyways, like I said, Rachel went through with nominating Morgan, alongside Mickey and Vince. Mickey and Morgan were a power duo in the house, and they were Rachel's main targets for the week, with Mickey being the primary target and Morgan being the backup. So, as long as neither of them won the veto, one of them would be guaranteed to go home. Rachel ended up getting her wish as neither of them won the veto, and Lauren won it instead. Lauren winning felt pretty good for Rachel because she didn't want to have to name a replacement nominee. But what Rachel didn't know is that Lauren actually had a secret Final 2 deal with Vince, and she was thinking about pulling him off the block. Rachel caught wind about what was going on, and she wasn't happy about it. So 30 minutes before the veto meeting, she went big dog mode. Lauren had told Rachel that one of the people that she was closest to in the game was Rylie. So Rachel told Lauren, I don't want you to use the veto. If you use it to save Vince, I'm putting up Rylie, and then that blood is on your hands. Lauren started freaking out, really just unsure of what to do, but Vince helped reassure her that Rachel was bluffing and trying to scare her out of using the veto. So, at the veto meeting, Lauren actually stuck to her guns and she used the veto on Vince. And, in turn, Rachel stuck to her guns and she blindsided Rylie and named him the replacement nominee.
I don't want you to use it.
I just think I have to.
Okay, well, Lauren, I'm gonna put up Rylie.
I have decided to use the power veto on Vince.
Rylie, take a seat.
Alright, cool. There's your backstory. Now, there's just one question. Who is Rylie? What makes his nomination so important? Well, to summarize it in 2 words, Rylie sucks. Out of all of the years that I have watched the Big Brother live feeds, I have never felt more uncomfortable and uneasy than when he was on the screen. Specifically, when he was with Katherine. From the very beginning of the game, Rylie was hardcore crushing on Katherine. At first, it was like, haha, look at Rylie, he has a crush. But it quickly turned into a whoa situation. After just a few days in the house, he was already telling her that he no longer cared about winning the game and that he was going to do everything he could to make sure that she won. And from here, he was making similar declarations of love on the daily. Eventually, after a couple of weeks, Katherine stated that she was starting to develop feelings for him, and not long afterwards, they became a real showmance. Showmances happen all the time in the Big Brother house, but what separates this from other showmances was the way that Rylie spoke to and about Katherine. On the live feeds, he would act weirdly possessive, intense, and grotesque. He would constantly tell her how he's going to marry her, whether she likes it or not. He would repeatedly ask to sleep in the same bed with her, even when she'd say no, and he had a tendency to make Katherine feel bad or guilty if she wasn't mirroring his own levels of affection. Overall, Rylie was just exhibiting behaviors that I personally found to be controlling, manipulative, and alarming. And this sentiment was shared by a lot of the online community, including Katherine's own family from back home. CBS may have tried to give Rylie a good boy edit, but don't be fooled. A lot of things weren't put on the episodes. And from my point of view, Rylie was a walking red flag inside the house. Now that I've set up who Rylie is, you might understand now how cool it was when the feeds turned on after the veto meeting and we saw Rylie sitting next to Mickey and Morgan. Better yet, Rachel was even encouraging her allies to maybe make a big move this week and take out Rylie. Unfortunately, this is where the sad bomb comes in. Rylie being nominated didn't seem to actually change anything. There were only 9 people voting on eviction night, and of the 9, 4 of them were guaranteed locks for Rylie to stay. Katherine, Lauren, Keanu, and Kelly were all aligned with Rylie, and they would vote for Mickey or Morgan to be evicted over him no matter what. So the only way for Rylie to potentially be evicted would be if all 5 of the other potential voters chose to evict him. That being Ashley, Will, Ava, Vince, and whichever one of Morgan or Mickey came off the block by winning the blockbuster. However, even in this scenario, there were so many things working against this becoming a reality. For starters, if Mickey was left on the block come eviction night, both Ava and Vince were voting to evict her 100,000% and would not be persuaded otherwise, meaning that Rylie would stay no matter what in that scenario. So, step 1 is that Mickey would need to win the blockbuster over both Morgan and Rylie. But Rylie had never lost a blockbuster before, and Mickey admittedly felt like the least likely of the 3 nominees to actually win this competition. So already, we are starting things off with, at best, a 1 in 3 shot at succeeding. And that's just step 1. Because we still need those 5 other people to vote against Rylie over Morgan. And let me tell you, that would be difficult for a lot of reasons. For starters, Vince literally had like a final 2 deal with Rylie and had sworn to him that he would vote for him to stay no matter what. Then there's Ava, who was also leaning towards keeping Rylie because she thought that he would always protect her in the house. Also, out of nowhere, Mickey started saying how she might want to keep Rylie over her supposed number 1 ally Morgan if she won the blockbuster. So, in order for Rylie to be evicted, not only would Mickey have to beat both Rylie and Morgan in the blockbuster comp, but Vince, Ava, and frickin' Mickey now would all need to be persuaded into turning against Rylie and voting him out over Morgan, which, combined with Ashley and Will's votes, would just barely put the numbers against Rylie, and he would be evicted in a vote of 5-4. Things were feeling unbelievably unlikely at this point. But you know who doesn't give a damn about what the odds are? Rachel Rylie.
Rylie is an amazing competitor. They all love him. And I'm hoping that all these newbies take the shot.
Rachel knew that this was her one opportunity to get a big threat like Rylie evicted, and she was willing to fight until the very last minute if she had to. The night before the eviction, Rachel started pitching hard to Ava, explaining to her that if Rylie stayed in the house, then that would give the other side the numbers advantage. And since that side had a lot of solid competitors, they could potentially decimate Rachel and her allies. This pitch actually started to work a bit on Ava, and eventually she was like, okay, I still won't keep Mickey, but I'm willing to keep Morgan over Rylie if that's best for us. Hey, that's great. But Vince would be a lot harder to convince. You see, Rachel and Vince were practically enemies in the game. Not only did Rachel just nominate Vince, but she tried to vote him out the week before too. And for what it's worth, Vince was pretty against Rachel as well. However, there was one tiny drop of hope that lay in the middle ground. Morgan. Morgan was very close with Vince, and even though Rachel had nominated Morgan this week and initially had her as the backup target, the two of them managed to work things out and they were back to being allies. So Morgan brought Vince into a 5-person alliance called the Judges, consisting of Morgan, Vince, Rachel, Will, and Ashley. And they made a plan here to keep Morgan safe no matter what this week. And you know what that might require? For Vince to vote out Rylie over Morgan. Vince, of course, agreed in the moment, because why wouldn't he? But secretly, he was still waffling back and forth. Does he vote out Rylie or does he vote out Morgan? Eventually, he came to a decision. And he was going to vote out Morgan. Well, there it goes. All of this work was for nothing. Because even if all the other stars aligned, it wouldn't matter if Vince wasn't going to vote against Rylie. But wait, hold on. There is still one little drop of hope left. And that comes from Ava Pearl. You see, after she was convinced by Rachel to potentially vote out Rylie, she wanted to discuss this with Vince because she knew that her and Vince were the swing votes here. So she and Vince got down to talking, but they didn't actually get anywhere. Ava was still leaning towards keeping Morgan, while Vince was still leaning towards keeping Rylie. So eventually, they were like, you know what? Let's just really cross our fingers and hope that Mickey doesn't win the blockbuster and we can just vote her out. But if she somehow does, then we'll make our decision in the moment. On one hand, it's really fun that they were waiting until the very last second, but on the other hand, this all but confirmed to me that Vince wasn't going to flip. He was just seemingly too far on the side of wanting Rylie to stay over Morgan, and I didn't think that any last-minute discussion was going to make him feel confident enough to change his mind. So when the feeds turned off a little bit before the eviction began, it looked as though Rylie would be staying no matter what.
Okay, Rylie's safe.
Rylie's safe no matter what.
We've got 4 right here.
Vince is gonna vote for him too. He's not going anywhere.
Even though my spirits were down when the eviction episode began, I was still hoping for a close vote at least. And that meant that Mickey still had to win this. The blockbuster had the 3 nominees needing to roll a ball down a squiggly line and lock in the highest score you could within 2 minutes. And after the competition began, my heart freaking sank because Rylie quickly landed a 29. And he was making the arguably correct decision to not lock it in, but to instead wait it out and see if Morgan or Mickey could eventually beat it. In a crazy turn of events, though, it seems like Rylie may not have understood the rules, because after Morgan also landed a 29, she locked it in first, and then Rylie waltzed over and locked in his score of 29, which made him lose on the spot. What's even crazier, though, is that during all of this, Mickey, who they hadn't shown at all, somehow landed a 38 when nobody was looking, and Mickey won the blockbuster. This was my greatest hope, and Ava and Vince's worst nightmare. Now they had to actually make a decision, and there was nearly no time. Rachel, of course, started enacting her last-minute pleading to both Ava and Vince to keep Morgan. But this is when I truly lost all of my hope. I saw the look on Ava's face while Rachel was pitching to her, and it did not seem receptive. Rachel had done this exact same thing 2 weeks earlier, trying to convince Ava to vote to keep Jimmy at the last minute, and Ava did not go with Rachel's plan then. So at this point, I was fully convinced that Ava and Vince were keeping Rylie, and I was so sad. Who knew if there was going to be another opportunity to get Rylie evicted ever? He had too many allies. He was pretty solid at comps, and it really felt like if he didn't go home now, it might not happen until the end of the game. So I solemnly watched as the players went to cast their votes. But hey, look at that. Mickey cast her vote to evict Rylie. That was certainly a relief that she got back on the right track and didn't vote out Morgan. But still, we needed those other votes. Vince came into the diary room and he looked very emotional. And as I was waiting for the hammer to drop, he choked out Rylie's name. Whoa. Okay, I definitely did not see that one coming, but it still might not matter because it all came down to Ava now. Even with Vince flipping his vote, I still felt that the look on Ava's face when Rachel was pitching for Morgan to stay indicated that she wasn't voting with her. So when Ava walked into the diary room, I held my breath. And you could immediately tell that Ava had no idea what she was going to do. She paused and sat in silence for many, many seconds after Julie asked who she was going to evict. And then she finally said Rylie's name. Ava Pearl. I genuinely could not believe what I had just watched unfold. Mickey won the blockbuster. Mickey didn't vote out Morgan. Vince actually voted against Rylie. And Ava came in with the fourth quarter slam dunk to seal the deal. With Will and Ashley both voting against him as well, it was official. Julie came back on to reveal the vote, and with one last sprinkle on an already delicious Thursday, she did the super rare fake out. By a vote of 5-4, Morgan, you are safe. And Rylie was evicted.
If Mickey wins Blockbuster, I can't make a decision. It cannot happen.
With a score of 38, congratulations, Mickey!
I vote to evict Morgan.
To Morgan.
It's Morgan.
Rylie.
Rylie.
I'm so sorry, man. I vote to evict Rylie.
I really can't do Mickey. I vote to evict. I vote to evict Rylie.
By a vote of 5-4, Morgan, You are safe. Rylie, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Wow. The shockwave of this blindside for the rest of the house guests was of great magnitude. Whether good or bad, everyone was feeling something. Lauren, Kelly, and Mickey were crying. Keanu had some tears welling up for sure. Ava and Vince both sobbed after the fact as they dealt with the immediate guilt over what they just did. And then there was Katherine. Poor Katherine. She did not see this coming, and she cried harder than anyone ever had at an eviction before. Seriously, nobody in the history of Big Brother has had as much of a visceral reaction to someone being evicted. And her and Rylie just stood hugging for like 3 minutes. And although Rylie being blindsided is clearly what I was wholeheartedly rooting for, I still felt bad for Katherine for a moment. But only for a moment. Because I knew that I had just witnessed what was possibly the greatest eviction of all time. What's crazy is that the players in the house still don't understand the magnitude of what they pulled off. From what we can tell, nobody in the game actually recognized the negative, manipulative, and weird side of Rylie. The last two evictees before this week, Jimmy and Zach, have both expressed statements saying how while inside the house, they thought that Rylie was a fan favorite. But now that they've seen this other side to him on the feeds, their opinion on him has changed. So Rachel's side of the house banding together and flipping enough votes by the skin of their teeth to evict Rylie wasn't because they thought he was a creep and wanted him out of the house. They actually thought that America loved him, but they saw him as a big game threat, and they were willing to risk being hated by America in order to make it happen. So, in the end, Mickey beasted the blockbuster and didn't vote against her original ride or die ally. Vince stuck with the judges in order to keep Morgan. And Ava was convinced by Rachel to turn against the showmance. And all of these things together were just enough to send Rylie home.
You fell hard and fast for her, and you even told her you plan on marrying her.
Yeah, I do. I did. I can't believe y'all heard that. So.
Oh, yes, we heard that and more.
Big Brother is at its best when big, difficult moves play out successfully. So many things had to go perfectly this week in order for Rylie to be evicted, and somehow it happened. Now, is this actually the best eviction of all time? I'm not sure. I certainly have a tendency to be a bit hyperbolic at times, and there have been some really great evictions in the past. But even without recency bias, I can't put my finger on an eviction that had me on the edge of my seat as much as this one did. I really thought that Vince was going to vote out Morgan here, and if I'm being honest, I kinda think he should have. Like, I really don't know why he ended up flipping his vote, but he did, and I really, really love him for that.
This game is just really hard. It's so hard.
Vinny, what happened?
You did to so many people.
I would have never pictured myself working with Vince, but it's Big Brother. My HOA train this week definitely showed the newbies how to play the game. The house is definitely shook.
Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I, of course, need to give that extra special shout out to all of my YouTube members and patrons who I fully believe, in my heart of hearts, would have all gone into that diary room and also made the bold and beautiful move of voting out Rylie. And, as always, here's a clip for you on your way out.
I want to win this competition so that I can put some of the people that sent Rylie home on the block.
We could talk if you want to talk.
Not really.
I am not about to make a deal with Vince.
Good job.
Oh, this is gonna be wet.